how to build stamina while running. Interval training. Now, back in, I'd say about 2022, when I really started to take training seriously and working out, one of the things I always wanted was speed, because back in middle school, I was like really, really fast. I was not in the track team, but every year we have a track and field day. And we always have four fastest kids from our grade. They do the relay races, they go around. Well, I actually did make it in 7th and 8th grade. And 8th grade was the year that, actually I was the runner-up. So I was the runner-up. One of my friends was 4th place. Everyone in the class would race to see the top 4 people would be the 4 relay race people. And I was the runner-up. My friends weren't there that day, so I was the fastest. Anyway, long story short, I used to be really fast, but I stopped. So I was trying to look into ways to get my speed up. Now, the way I first did it when I was a kid was running around the house, and I would time it. Now, that's a good way to like sprint, but if you really want to get good at long distance running and build your stamina as well as your speed, the best way to do it is high intensity interval training. Specifically, running in intervals. Interval running is this thing where basically it's a type of exercise to build up your stamina. Now, what you do essentially is you're walking, then you have a path wherever you are, like on the road. You sprint as fast as you can for 30 seconds, and then stop and walk for a minute. And then after that, you sprint as fast as you can for 30 more seconds and walk for a minute. Of course, if you're starting out, you can do a minute and a half, a minute 45. It doesn't matter how long it is because you are going to close that gap. That's what I did because I looked up online and found a chart, and it was basically how to go from couch potato to running a 5K. And then, of course, it built to me because I like running fast, racing, or to get my speed up. That is the best way to do it because it is going to build up, it's not just your speed while you're sprinting. It's also building up your stamina because when you run and you're resting for this 30 seconds. You're running for this 30 seconds, resting for a minute. What you do after that is then, not the same day, but once you get used to that, kind of like with working out, the next time you run for 45 seconds, or you keep it the same 30 seconds, and then instead of walking for a minute, you walk for 50 seconds. So you're shortening the amount of rest time in between each of your runs. That's going to build up your stamina because you realize your body's going to get used to running, then resting, then running and resting. And actually, it surprised me when it first happened. It was about in 2023, so like a year later when I've been doing that. I realized I would run really for a long while and then stop because I should be tired. But then after about like 30 seconds, I was like, wait, I feel fine. Like I could run again. Of course, my joints were tired. But the thing is, like, cardiovascularly, I wasn't that tired. I wasn't out of breath. So it's basically that simple concept of running in intervals and shortening the intervals of how often you're resting. The amount of time that you're resting for in between each of those runs, you want to close it shorter and shorter. To which you realize, think about it, pretty soon you're going to be running for 30 seconds, then walk for 30 seconds, then run for 30 seconds. Then you would be resting for a shorter amount of time than you're running for, which will eventually, what happens when the gap reaches 0? You'll just be able to run continuously. Now, of course, you want to do it at a pace, which is where we get into speed mode. Speed mode is this concept that I came up with, where it's basically just sprinting, but it sounds cooler when you say speed mode, because what I would do is there are times when you need to run all out, which is sprinting, and you just kind of like try to block everything from your mind and just imagine just using up all of your energy. It's like in a video game. When you have a power-up bar, it like slowly fills up. And then so I could be jogging at a brisk pace, but not going all out. And on my walk that I actually do daily, there's a specific point in between, there's a guardrail that's a certain length. I actually just sprint the guardrail full on, like full tilt. And that's how I can get sprinting in. I'm entering speed mode is what I call it, where you're just running as fast as you can. And when you run, you're running on the tips of your toes. So your tippy toe, Your heel shouldn't be touching the ground when you're in speed mode. Regular jogging and even running is not the same as speed mode. There's walking, jogging, running, then sprinting. Sprinting is speed mode, okay? So when you're practicing your intervals, you don't have to sprint. You probably should be running because you're trying to build up long endurance stamina. Endurance and speed they are two different skills. But by putting them together, you can get much faster and kind of regulate your speed at which you're running and going. So basically, students, so use this advice to get better at running, all right? If you're just starting out, just be walking and then break into a run. You're going to be really, really tired, but over a long course of time, you can build up your endurance and stamina to get to the point where you can eventually run a 5K, all right? Believe in yourselves. And remember, stay flashy.